economy. Donald Trump, we will strike 90 deals in 90 days. Trade deals, this is. How many has he struck?
Well, he's doing great trade deals. He's done one with the UK, thankfully, that we're very thrilled about that. India's soon to come.
In this video, you're about to witness something that perfectly captures the state of Trump world right now. Carla Sands trying and failing to spin her way out of basic facts. It's one of those interviews that tells you everything about the tactics, the contradictions, and the desperation inside the MAGA bubble. We'll watch the full exchange together, and then I'll break down exactly what it reveals.
Let's talk about all of that and more with Ambassador Carla Sands, former member of Donald Trump's Economic Advisory Council, former US Ambassador to Denmark, to Greenland and to the Faroe Islands. Ambassador, very good afternoon to you. Thank you for coming on. Let's start, shall we, with those reports that the President Trump had to be quite strongly talked out of firing Jerome Powell, the chair of the Federal Reserve. Why on earth would he want to fire Mr. Powell, and do you think he should do?
Well, I think that President Trump is looking at our debt payments and the fact that we are accumulating debt every quarter. We're borrowing, I think it's every 100 days, about $1 trillion more. It's on an unsustainable trajectory. The American people on both sides of the aisle are very wary of this. They want the debt handled and they want less government spending. So if we look at what he's trying to do, he's trying to lower the interest rates so that our debt payments are lower, because it's accumulating so fast because of the high rate that the Fed has set. If you look at what UK has done, or the European Central Bank, they've been lowering their rates. So the debt is lower in anything you service in abroad, UK or the European Central Bank. He's asking for some relief so that the American people can afford to buy a house, because right now, because of the debt rate that Jerome Powell has set, mortgage rates are at, I think it's a 30-year high. It may be longer.
So he's apparently written a letter sacking Mr. Powell. He's been waving it around to all sorts of Republican politicians. It sounds like, Ambassador, you think he would be justified in sending that letter?
Well, so what I think is that Jerome Powell should lower the interest rates, like our friends and cousins across the pond have done, and then people will be able to afford to buy a house again, to get a mortgage, to buy a car on credit, and to service our debt.
But interest rates would come down if inflation came down. Inflation since President Trump took office had gone up.
The inflation is almost nothing. It's just several.
It's not if you've seen your It's not if you've seen your groceries go up under a president.
No, they've gone down.
Inflation has gone up.
Prices have gone down. Like eggs are much cheaper. Maybe, I don't know, more than a couple of dollars cheaper a dozen.
Eggs might be, Ambassador, but the cost of living across the board, inflation, CPI, is up under President Trump despite his promises to bring it down.
Just a tiny bit, but remember, this is still Joe Biden's economy we're living in. President Trump has not even been in office for 6 months, so he's working to implement his policies. Gas prices have come down since he's been elected. People are feeling wealthier. The least educated people with the lowest income, their incomes are actually raising higher, faster than any other groups, faster than inflation. So they're finding some relief early on. But this is going to take time. And as a matter of fact, I think he's justified in asking for the interest rates to come down. Let's not forget, Jerome Powell has been so political that he was lowering the interest rates whenever Joe Biden had an election or there was a Democrat election opportunity in the midterms or the presidential.
You can't put all the blame and the burden on Joe Biden. Since Donald Trump took office, inflation is up, unemployment is up, and growth is down. For the first few months, economically, it's been a disaster.
So it hasn't been a disaster. As a matter of fact, billions of dollars have come into the United States because of the tariffs. This year, we'll have
paid by American companies.
$1 billion. That's not true. It's mostly paid by the foreigners. No, it's very little inflation in the U.S. It's just a little over 2% right now. It's not true.
Of course, so tariffs on imports are paid by U.S. companies.
Generally not. generally it's the foreign country, and that's why he's putting tariffs in place. Why do you think that he's been so upset about the tariff barriers and non-tariff barriers that have been excluding American goods and punishing American exporters going to places like the UK and the EU? For instance, the US, we charge 2.5% historically on European cars. They charged us 10%. And then there was the big VAT tax, the 20% on top of that, where every state in the US has a much lower state sales tax, much lower. So I think that what you'll see is our economy, like look at the stock market. It's not the economy, but it's a good sign of business confidence and investor confidence. But what President Trump is focused on is Main Street, that the working people get some relief. And you will see that within this calendar year.
Let me ask you about some of the other promises that he made. Ending the war in Ukraine on day one. How's that going?
It's tougher. He didn't say, so he maybe said day one once or twice. Mostly he said that's going to be a harder.
Dozens of times, Ambassador. Come on, he said it dozens of times. We will end the war on day one. Okay. I am, because I've got to correct you on that. We will end the war on day one. Let me just correct the record.
He also said that this was going to be a harder war to win than the Israel-Hamas war. So he did say it was going to be a harder war to end than that war.
He still promised to end it on day one, though, didn't he? And he hasn't.
Regarding Hamas. So he's working on ending this. I will just say this. President Trump was the only world leader that picked up the phone and tried to get to a peace deal. President Biden and the top Europeans were not working on ending that war.
The promise wasn't, I will pick up the phone and try. The promise was, I will end the war on day one.
He is working on...
But that's not the promise. You accept it's a broken promise. It's a broken promise.
It's not a broken promise.
How is it not a broken promise? He said, I will end the war on day one. And we're now on day, what are we on, 100 and something?
No, I thought you were the host. I didn't know this was a debate. I'm sorry.
It's a conversation.
But as a matter of fact, President Trump is working to end this war.
Yes.
His team is working tirelessly to end this war. And what has happened, they thought that they had a ceasefire deal in place. President Vladimir Putin, he retreated over and over. We saw Zelensky. He has incentives to enrich himself from this war.
But these are excuses.
There's not a great trade on either side.
A promise was made. A promise wasn't kept. Let's return to the economy. Donald Trump, we will strike 90 deals in 90 days. Trade deals. This is. How many has he struck?
Well, he's doing great trade deals. He's done one with the UK, thankfully, that we're very thrilled about that. India's soon to come. Indonesia's completed. EU is tough. I mean, the EU, we have former Prime Minister of Denmark, Lars Løkke Rasmussen, who's working on the trade deal, saying, well, we need to punish the U.S. That's not a way to get to a good trade deal, to say we're going to be punitive.
He signed 2 deals. He said he would sign 90 in 90 days. We're well past 90 days. He's done 2.
Scott Bessent and his team and the
it's another
US
broken promise.
Trade representative, they're working on it very hard. Listen, things take longer than they should.
So why did he promise?
But the good news is it's a work in progress. Rather than attack what hasn't gotten accomplished yet, even though it's in the works, I wish that the UK would work on doing some of the things that President Trump is doing, following his lead of bringing down the costs for the people of the UK, bringing down the cost of energy, the cost of food.
Ambassador,
when I look and see that you've lost GDP in the last year, that actually the UK the economy is shrinking. It's a tragedy and a disaster. We need our allies to be strong, to be prosperous.
To be fair, we are one of the 2 countries that has done a trade deal with Donald Trump.
Prosperous.
Let me just ask you, if you could, about one final promise. We will release the Epstein files, Donald Trump, before the election. Have a listen to this. This is Donald Trump yesterday.
I don't understand why the Jeffrey Epstein case would be of interest to anybody. It's pretty boring stuff. It's sordid, but it's boring. And I don't understand why it keeps going.
Why won't he release all the files like he promised to?
I don't know that it's under his power, and I don't know that it's under Pam Bondi's power. I know she said she had the
president of the United States. He doesn't have the power to release some files?
I know. I hear it may be actually under the control of attorneys in the court of New York. If that's true, then they should release it. Pam Bondi should release what she should. The American people on both sides of the aisle are very upset that there hasn't been more transparency around this issue.
Donald Trump just said no one cares.
And was doing. I think some of us do care.
He's wrong to say that. He's wrong to dismiss
I think he's getting bad advice in this case, and I think that there will be more information that comes out. There must be an intelligence community reason that this isn't being released. Okay. Because certainly Pam Bondi said she had the list on her desk. Just on that clip, finally, Ambassador, I think you're telling me he's wrong to dismiss it as boring and say nobody's interested in it. Well, and he may be getting advice that this is something that there may be things that cannot be released to the public. That's what I'm thinking, and I wish he would just tell us if that's so. But is it boring? Is it boring, this issue? Do you find it boring? Well, I think he's energized about hundreds of people. Is that boring? He's energized about rebuilding the economy. He's focused on the big things. This isn't a big thing. The economy, our security. It's not a big thing. Child abuse of hundreds, if not thousands of children isn't a big thing. If you look at the country as a whole of people being safe, being prosperous, it is not the main thing. No. And the president has only potentially so much thousands bandwidth. Of children. I can't believe this, Ambassador. Because it's potentially only thousands of children that were abused by a prolific, notorious sex offender. It's not a big deal for most people. Listen, these were young women. Do you realise how that offensive that is to those to his victims? We're offended. No, women and men do not like this story at all. But as a matter of fact, it is, I'm sorry to say this, it's a distraction from the main thing, keeping the country safe, making sure that the country is economically successful, bringing together the whole of government for our country. It is a distraction. His victims calls for justice. His victims demands that the public is made aware of who was helping Epstein cover up his crimes is a distraction. Seriously. Listen, I agree with you. I think that there should be whatever can be disclosed should be disclosed. However, I will say this. It is a distraction from the main thing. The U.S. president should never have to say another word about this. Well, he wouldn't. He has the whole country and literally the world on his shoulders.
When I look at this clip, here's what immediately stands out to me. Carla Sands isn't just struggling. She's doing what every Trump surrogate eventually ends up doing. She's walking into an interview with talking points that simply don't survive contact with reality. And if you've watched my channel for a while, you already know this isn't new for her. I've covered multiple interviews where she collapses the moment basic facts enter the room. And honestly, this one is better than her usual performances. That tells you everything. Here's the pattern I'm seeing. Trump surrounds himself with people whose only job is to polish whatever he says, even when the math, the timeline, and the logic don't add up. And every time they show up on camera, they're forced into the same impossible position, defending promises that were never realistic to begin with. Because, let's be real, the interviewer wouldn't even have these lines of questioning if Trump hadn't spent years overselling fantasy timelines and empty guarantees. These surrogates aren't improvising. They're cleaning up after him. And when you build your entire political brand on exaggeration and bravado, the cleanup crew always looks like this: shaky, defensive, and visibly frustrated by the weight of their own excuses. Take the inflation claim she tried to float. She said inflation is almost zero. That's just not true. I'm watching the same data everyone else is watching. Mid-2025, inflation is hovering around 2.5%. Some prices have eased, yes, but overall costs are still higher than they were before, and pretending otherwise doesn't help anyone who's actually trying to keep groceries on the table. Then the tariff argument. She tried to celebrate the so-called revenue coming in, as if the foreign governments are writing checks to the IRS. But that's not how tariffs work. American companies pay those costs up front. Consumers feel them in the checkout line. It's economic sleight of hand dressed up as victory. And then there's the 90 trade deals in 90 days slogan, one of Trump's most ambitious claims. We're more than 6 months in, and we're looking at 1 or 2 deals. 2, maybe. And that's if you're being generous. The timeline he promised is gone. The number he promised is fantasy. And the reality his surrogates now have to defend is nowhere close to what he advertised. And let's not skip over the Epstein files. Trump promised, very clearly, that he would release them. That was his commitment. And now we're being told he either can't or won't or shouldn't or doesn't think anyone cares. These aren't explanations. These are escape hatches. And once again, it's the surrogate left fumbling to explain away a broken promise that didn't have to be made in the first place. That's the common thread here. Every time Carla Sands goes into these interviews, she enters with the burden of someone else's words. She has to stretch, distort, or outright deny basic facts because the political universe she's defending simply doesn't match the world the rest of us live in. And that's why she breaks down under pressure. It's not a lack of skill, it's a lack of truth to lean on. But, as always, I want to hear what you think. Drop your thoughts in the comment section below. I read every single one. While you're there, hit the subscribe button and give the video a thumbs up to help push this content through the algorithm. I'll see you in the next one.